Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, delighted to see you. Thank you for making the effort, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you contribute. We've got an enormous amount of experience in this room. People who know what doesn't work as well as what does work. People who are constantly testing new ideas. So thank you, and thank you to the reps that are here from Vionic, who have a very high opinion of their customers, which is nice to hear. And so we just hope you enjoy the session, and I'm glad to be here because I had an accident 2 weeks ago. So I saw Morris before limping here, and I had a similar sort of accident, and well, not a similar accident, but a similar problem with my foot. I could hardly walk, so at the moment I'm okay. What happened in brief terms is that, do we have any golfers here? Yeah? Okay. So you're the only one. Did you know this, Morris, that he was?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So now when he's not there, you know what's happening. So I'm a tennis player. Steve's a tennis player. I don't play golf. I played once, maybe 30 years ago, and this is the gospel truth. On the first tee, I hit the ball, and we couldn't find it. For 10 minutes, it was behind me. Yeah, so that gives you some idea of how pathetic I am in golf. And, but anyway, I decided that where we live, in a place called Sun City, have you heard of Sun City? There are 3 of them around America. The gentleman whose original, he was the designer, was called Del Webb, and a man way ahead of his time in the design and the implementation of the Sun City idea. And so my wife and I live there in Northern California. It was a mistake on my part to go there because I thought it was Sin City. I don't care, it's okay. So anyway, the golf course, the tennis courts that I love to go to are only 2 minutes away, and the golf course is 1 minute away. So I thought one day there was nobody, or seemingly nobody on the courts, and I thought I'll just hire a buggy and see how I go. So I did, and pretty early on in the piece I was going down an embankment, and I didn't notice that the path had an open part to it. There was no grass there, in other words, and I hit it and bang, the whole thing went over. So for at least 2 minutes I had no idea where I was and so forth, and I was in a little bit of pain, but mostly just groggy. I managed to get out, and it was very close to the edge of the course where the houses are. And this lady came out, she was wearing a bath towel, and she said, "I apologize for my dress, I heard the crash. Are you okay?" And I said, "I honestly don't know, I hope I am, I'll be okay." And she said, "Well, look, I'm a former nurse. Maybe I can help you in some small way, cuts, bruises, or what have you." And I said, "No, don't worry about that." She said, "Please, come on in and I'll help you." And I said, "Look, my wife would definitely not approve of that." And she said, "Don't be silly, it's only going to take a couple of minutes." So we went in, and she did find a couple of cuts and bruises, and she was very helpful and very professional. And so that was hard. And then we had a couple of scotches, and well, it's not a big deal. Anyway, so we had a couple of scotches, and then she said the following: "You've been through a lot of pain. Would you now like to go through a lot of pleasure?" And I said, "What are you?" She said, "You know what I mean. Okay, I'm ready. Are you?" I said, "Under no circumstances." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because my wife would never approve of that, under any circumstances." She said, "How is she going to know?" "Where is she?" I said, "She's still in the buggy." What? I was going to get there. So I'm feeling a bit better now. No, I did have a tennis injury, so that's what's causing me the problems. Anyway, so we are delighted that you're here, as I said. We've got a lot to go through, and I hope you choose to get involved. Did you mention the shop and shop? Okay, so when I'm finished in this first segment, which it's 4.5 hours, isn't it? Yeah. The first segment is 4.5 hours. Then what's the problem? Why? What's the matter? We just go for whatever time we want. We don't care. No, I've only got maybe 3/4 of an hour to an hour. And then Steve's coming on to talk about the latest Vionic contribution, which is very exciting. Some of you may know about it already, involved, whatever. So you're going to hear more about it and how it's going to be spread to more progressive stores. And so Steve will tell you all about that, then we're going to have a break. Then we have Maurice Breton here from Comfort One, Comfort Management Shoes, and he is kindly going to give us his views on business, the future, and whatever else he feels is worth contributing to that you will find helpful. And so Maurice will talk for whatever it is, 1/4 of an hour, 20 minutes, and then he's going to take questions from the floor. I hope you have some good questions for him. And I just want to say thank you again for being here, and we'll introduce Maurice immediately after the coffee break. So first of all, we wanted to start with a session which is called No Problems, No Sales. So occasionally I will talk to people in your business who have a problem with sales. It's not really where they want it to be. And obviously the idea is to trace it back to yourself, one way or the other, not in a paranoid sort of way, but in a positive way. Because if you can't trace it back to yourself, then you've got more problems than you realized. Okay, so it's critical to be able to say that, the problem lies within the store somewhere, not outside the store. It doesn't matter what's going on outside the store, you cannot control those circumstances. And I can't tell you how many people I meet who have a journalistic attitude to this kind of thing. And what I mean by that is they report on external conditions and the damage that's being done to the store and its results, when in fact they can't do anything about it. All they can do is fight back. And that's what this first session is all about. So I'm going to just remind you of a couple of basics. So in business generally, and in shoe stores generally, we have two areas where we're involved in performance. So the first one is known to everyone, dollars and cents. The results that we get. This is what we hope to get. We're very articulate in this area. We have targets, we have progress reports. We know exactly where we're at. This comes in three categories: high performance, average performance, and low performance. So everybody knows about this. Everybody's in control of this. Then we have another line of performance which people don't know enough about. And this is to do with service. Service that we give. And obviously, the more you give in this area, the more you will get. So it behoves us to know not only as much as we need to know in this area, but also more and more in this area. This area is basically split into two, and those that I've worked with either at PS meetings in the past. This is our 9th meeting, by the way. Yeah, not including Atlanta. This is our 9th meeting in Vegas. We started in 2013, and so you will have heard me talk about the two gaps in business. So here's the first gap. Which is service gap, which is attending to customers, consumers, whatever you prefer to call them. And basically what you're doing in this area is you're finding out what they want times 2, and you will go ahead and you will help them. And if we're absolutely honest, this shouldn't be by any measure an enormous challenge. To be able to meet someone, greet someone in a timely, friendly fashion, find out what they've got in mind, and help them as best you can to get what they have in mind. And it is worth remembering that every customer has a second want, about which they say nothing, and it's critical. And that's how they wish to be treated during the service process. In your view, how important is that? Even though they don't say anything about it. It is extremely important. Increasingly, people are finding that even when they enter a store, and they don't even get acknowledged at all, let alone in a friendly way, because they're busy. Well, the news is, of course, that customers really are not worried about you being busy. In fact, it's a very positive sign. What they don't like is being made to be invisible. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. So, you know, that's one of the smaller wants that they have, but nevertheless, it is out there, it happens all the time, and they won't say a damn thing to you. By the way, why won't they say anything to you? Because if they did, I can't imagine there's anyone in this room who wouldn't be hurt by that, if you know what I mean, okay? Because that's not what you want to happen. Why don't they say anything? They're not, please, not all at the same time. Because it's confusing when people are shouting out.
They want to avoid confrontation.
Pardon?
They want to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're more interested in consultation, not confrontation. You know, we live in a civilized world. Who needs, are you the only shoe store in town? Oh, we'll go somewhere else. That's the end of that. Okay, so it's not actually their problem. It's a glitch. For them, for you, it's a problem. Because if you don't know what's going on in your store, in this area here, in the second want, first want, piece of cake. How do you take care of the first want, by the way? How do you find out what a person wants? You ask them, you talk to them. What else are you supposed to do? Guess? What are you supposed to say to people? Shh, don't say anything. We like to guess what people want. You'll be there an hour later trying still to guess. It's the easiest thing in the world. How can I help you? What did you have in mind? Whatever your agreed way of greeting people is. Okay? But the second want, they say nothing about at all. Except maybe to people they know. Now, as I may have mentioned before, I was going through the local Galleria with my wife one day. Or was it my girlfriend? Anyway, no, that's a detail, forget that. No, but seriously, we were walking through the local Galleria, and my wife said, oh, I just want to drop into the store here, the dress store. I said, fine, I sat down, got my phone out, checked messages, and she was out within a minute and a half. And I said, what happened? And in consumer language, this is what she said. Apparently, they don't want my business. That is consumer language, by the way. Very straightforward, very simple. Apparently, they don't want my business. And I said, what happened? She said, well, when I walked into the store, nobody even looked. And then eventually, when I had contact with someone, they showed no real interest at all. You know, they looked as if they hadn't smiled since their honeymoon. This sort of bland expression, uninterested expression on their face. And she said, I don't need to shop in places like that, you know. And by the way, that shop has since closed. What damage did she do that day to that shop? Because number one, she didn't buy. That's number one. Lost sale. Might seem like a small thing.
She told about 20 of her friends.
She vowed never to return.
Yeah.
She told a bunch of her friends, probably about the
Yeah,
same.
she could. You know, if the subject came up. It's not likely that she would be reporting it to everyone, but, you know, maybe if the subject came up, she would say something. I don't know. Yeah, so she didn't buy. Is she going back? No. She may tell people that the worst thing she could possibly do to the store, by far, is not tell you. So now you've really got a problem, because now you could multiply this problem over and over again without realizing what you're doing. So good businesses know what mistakes they're making at all times. Okay? One way or the other, management finds out what mistakes are going on. Because if you don't, they're not going to be reported to you. I can tell you that right now. Simple as that. So you're the same, by the way. Don't tell me you're any different. If you go into a restaurant and say to people, hi, corner table for 4, thank you. Oh, by the way, here are some notes on how we wish to be treated while we're here tonight. You're not going to do that. Why don't you do it?
It's expected.
Yeah, you expect it. So this area here is largely an area of basic expectations of the consumer. They hope it will be friendly and enjoyable. They hope it will be timely, depending on what time they've got. And when you're very good in this area, and I mean really good, you've got a process, the process seems to be working, you're always trying to figure out how to refine it. When you get to the highest level in this area, it equates with average earnings. And people say, well, hang on a minute. You mean that we are about as good as it gets? at giving service in this area, and all we get is average earnings. Yeah, why? Because, as we've just heard, this is basic. The consumer is in control of this area, basically. So now you're at the starting line of business, not the finishing line. And now you enter what we call the second gap. And the second gap isn't attending. That happens all the way through. This is achieving. Because that's what we're here to do in business. We're here to achieve for people. And I mean for people. So you'll notice the difference in language here. Here's a customer or a consumer. This is a person. I don't mean that you have to sit down and interview them and find out about their personal lives. But the point is you are selling a result to people. And people live outside the store, not inside the store. Inside the store, they're a consumer. Outside the store, they're a person living an ordinary life. At home, maybe at work, socializing and what have you. And they care a lot about that. But they don't expect you to get into this area. Okay? They don't. It's about as simple as that. And you know what it's like with the major stores around America now, the major stores such as, well, I don't know which ones are in your area. We've got Sears, Macy's, Target. They're closing down everywhere. Okay, do you know what the reason for this is, by the way? Have you investigated? Have you been on Google and had a look at what's causing all this?
Sameness in merchandise, flat for no service, no connection with the stores.
Yeah. So you've been to the stores, I take it? Okay, they exist because the quality of products is good. If it's not the consumer, that's the end of that. They won't go back. So the quality's okay, the prices are very good, endless discounts. Okay? But they're closing down because they can't make money out of that. So they've taken an about turn. They've gone the other way and they miscalculated very badly. So in this area here, the second gap is absolutely critical in business, and let me just remind you, if you're no good in this area, the consumer will not allow you to move into this area. Okay? They're buying you here. They buy shoes in this area here. So in this area here, we're talking about what it is that they need, times two. And what they need is always different to what they want. Because they don't know what they need. They don't know what is best. They don't know what inventory you have, what ideas you have. Yes, Mike?
John, would you say that in the first part, attending, the customer's in charge, and in the second gap, the sales associate takes charge?
Yes. Although, during this period here, the associate begins to take charge in a very pleasant, acceptable manner. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. They actually do not ask permission to do their job. Take a simple thing like measuring someone's feet. Now, in your store, is that important or not?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it is. It's very simple from your point of view. I don't want to be, taking the consumer's word and going back and coming back and, taking up time, their time, my time, looking like a fool and what have you. You want to measure their feet. Now, do you know how many stores, if you're lucky, the associate will say, do you mind if I measure your feet? Okay, what's the consumer likely to say in many circumstances? No, it's okay, I'm fine, thanks, I know what it is. So, they are right, they do know what it is. What they don't know is that you have many shoes that come in the same sizes that fit differently. Okay, but you should know that. So these people here, the good ones anyway, will tell the person what I'm going to do. Oh, by the way, I'm going to take a few seconds to measure your feet, and then they explain why they're going to do it. They do not ask permission to do it. Can you imagine a doctor asking permission? Can you imagine a doctor saying, do you mind if I take your blood pressure? Is it something you're for or against? Do you have time? They don't do that. They just get on with it. And they explain usually why they're doing what they do. So, to Morris's point, the consumer is in control here, but in this area here, the associate gradually begins to take control in a way that is completely acceptable to the consumer, because they don't want to be in control, by the way. They love being served by someone who knows what they're doing and who is leading them towards something interesting and better than they had imagined. So the first need of every consumer, very basic, is simply this. If you've got ideas that you think will help me that I didn't come in and ask about, would you mind letting me know what they are, please? That's all. Just please let me know. Because I don't know what they are. I don't know what you've got that may be of interest, that may be similar to what I asked for. You know, such as the case with Vionic. Maybe they didn't know that not only could they get something that looks similar to what they were looking at from a style point of view, but which is also going to help them enormously. Because during this period here, you also checked to see if they had any pain-related problems, foot problems, okay? That's part of your process in this area. Again, you do not ask permission to do that. And neither do you become tentative while doing it. To be tentative will be something like, oh, by the way, do you have any foot problems? What's a consumer supposed to answer that? That's not her language. That's your language, not her language. That would be the same as a doctor saying, so tell me, how is your liver? How's your spleen at the moment? We don't think that language. We think the language of symptoms. So the associates who know how to do it, thanks to their store management, will say things like, we have a lot of people come into our store, upwards of 70%, who have foot pain problems. Could be their ankle, their toes, their heel, and it's important for me to know that because maybe I can bring out shoes that will be helpful to you. And then they just go ahead and do it. So the person then knows why it's being done. Very important. So this area here, they buy you, and then in this area here, they buy your ideas. So the first need is, if you've got ideas, then please show me. Okay, don't worry about whether I agree, because I make the last decision, the second decision, not you. Okay? I make that decision. But I'm very interested to hear what you think. You're the professional. The second need of every customer, as a person, is, would you help me make the decision? Just help me make the decision. Let me know what you think would be best. Now, the worst language you can use in that situation as you enter this area, if you enter this area, is, so what do you think? So you show shoes, you've tested them and so forth, you've discussed them, answered questions and so forth, and then you will say, so what do you think? Which means then all the, wind goes out of the sails and you abandon the consumer. And so she will usually say, speak the language of the abandoned consumer, which is, I don't really know, let me think about it. Let me sleep on it, I'll come back to you. Because they don't really know what to do. So they need you to let them know what you think is best, even if they don't completely agree. Because they make the second and the final decision. But we must make the first decision. That's our job. Same with doctors, they have a prescription process, and they know that we don't have to agree, but for the most part we do. So, the reason I'm showing you this is that, in my view, store management must maintain a grip in this area here and must learn far more about this area here. Must learn, first of all, what works with the consumer and what is acceptable to the consumer and impressive, and how then do we use this as a launching pad to get into this area in order to go from the servant role to the master role. Not servile, the servant to the master, because that's basically what's happening here. We're serving them and then we're going to lead them. This, if you like, is the great law of cause and effect. There's the effect, there's the cause. If you spend too much time on this and not enough time on this, then you're going to be up to your eyes in figures and not know what's causing them. So I implore store managers to think more about taking control of this area here. For instance, I know a lot of organizations that simply do not know how their staff behave. They just don't have the time to witness the way they behave. I don't mean spy on them. They don't make the time to investigate how their behavior is operating in line with standards. So, we've got to be better at judging this area here. And so the idea of the PS service that we're introducing today is no problems, no sales. If you have if you're having problems here, it's because of something that's going on over here. It could well be an associated area, like your ads aren't working or something. Something's not working, and we must find out what it is. Okay? So, we're now going to investigate and get feedback from you as to what those areas are. So this is a takeaway at the end of this morning session as you leave, and we will finish just before 12 o'clock. It's simply called sales can't move forward until we know what wholesale's about. So we've got a number of questions there, none of which you can see, so let's go through them individually. This, by the way, is a challenge to use for your managers when you go back to the store, if you feel it's appropriate. The challenge is to have one or more managers respond to the questions listed below and then compare notes and agree on immediate and future action. So here's the first question. Do we own by design, using our own ideas, internally and external ideas, a professional pleasing service process that exceeds competitive service standards? Now, I know for a fact that many of you do in fact have a strong service process, and I hope that you continue to refine it as time goes by. But my question to you would be, how do you know whether it does in fact exceed competitive standards? How would you know? How are you going to find out? Because you have to know. Like in the world of sport, I interviewed a basketball coach once, and we were in his office, and he said, look, it's best if we go down to the changing rooms, and I'll talk to you about it all down there. So we went down to the changing rooms, and then in the changing rooms they had big signs and what have you, not with rhetoric, but with key factors they were going to work on, and then they had a whole library of films of competitive players that you have to mark, or they're going to mark you, and so forth and so on. And so it was up to the players and the coaches and the assistants to study the behavior, the actions of these people, so that we could do whatever we could to match, overcome these problems and what have you. So in sport, it's pretty basic. I mean, it's hard work, but it's basic. What about in business? How are you going to find out whether or not you are over and above competition, online with competition or whatever? How do you do that? Pardon? Yeah, you can shop at the store. That's one way of finding out. Very simple, direct way of finding out is to either have someone do it for you that you can trust, one of the team. That's up to you. But go and see it, sample it for yourself. Don't get involved in guesswork. Another way of doing it is to talk to consumers. Yeah. Now, in the second half today, we're going to hear from Jim and Bob. And they have tested an idea that we've talked about before. We didn't go into a lot of detail about it, called the mystery consumer promotion, or mystery shopper promotion as they have called it, where I won't go into detail now, but the point is you end up talking to consumers in a very interesting situation. And as Bob will explain, and hopefully Jim will back up, the consumers were fine to give their point of view and the staff loved it. They absolutely loved it. Imagine the staff hearing from consumers, that's the kind of behavior I want. I want you to behave this way. And, telling you whether it's happening or not. But apart from anything else, they'll also be able to tell you what service is like elsewhere. I don't mean by spying, I mean just by answering questions. What has been good service? What have been your experiences with good service? What generally seems to happen? Etc., etc. Any other thoughts as to how do you find out about your competitiveness? There's no point talking about competitiveness unless we know about our competitors. And by the way, we must respect our competitors. And we must understand what they do well. And then the third factor is we must learn to outperform them. Now, a lot of businesses do not respect their competitors, number one. I didn't say love them. They don't respect them. Within the store, I will never talk ill if you don't, about your competitors. That's not going to go down well at all. That breeds a terrible sense within the store. We need competitors, okay, and our job is to outperform them. And the only way to do that is, number one, respect them. Number two, understand what they do. So you've come up with one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to talk to consumers. Anything else?
Satisfaction survey.
Sorry, just talk up a bit.
A satisfaction survey that you could.
Yeah, survey?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, just don't make it complicated. Yeah? The best survey I ever saw of a hotel, because I go to hotels, quite a lot, and in Australia all the time I was go into hotels and what have you, and usually in the room there would be a hotel survey. And usually there'd be about 70 questions. Yeah, because apparently people like me see service as being 70 things. You know, which was a good idea because we had to stay an extra night in the hotel just to fill out the questionnaire. I mean, this was dumb. And then I came across one hotel that only had 2 questions and they got 90% feedback. Question number 1, what, if anything, did you find to be valuable, distinctive, or helpful about our service? The consumers know that, by the way. Make it easy for them. What, if anything, did you find to be valuable, pleasing, distinctive about our service? If you need the words afterwards, I'll give them to you in the break. Second question, what, if anything, do you feel we should consider changing, improving, to improve our service to people like you? So nothing complicated at all. Make it simple for them and they will tell you. The consumer, by the way, you know, they know all about this kind of thing. They just don't know they know it. Any other thoughts? Any other way of finding out about competitiveness? About the way you behave, about the way they behave? Well, anyway. Yes, Mike?
Secret shopping.
Yeah. How do you do that?
How do we do that? We do that with a service that we buy hundreds of secret shops and then monitor our stores on a regular basis. We're having some results we don't like in the store. We might send more secret shops into that store for a period of time. Very important part of the company. Our senior vice president of stores reads the results to our senior management group weekly. It's something we all take very seriously.
Okay, but it is critical, is it not? I don't know how you can imagine yourself to be competitive if you do not know what your competitors are doing. Pretty straightforward. Do we have a plan such as whether or not, well, I'll explain what that means in a second, to ensure that external bad conditions are matched by a range of action ideas to ensure sales success when consumer traffic is down? Now, this idea came from a talk with Sean, who's, what is your title? Huh? Senior Vice President Sales. Very nice guy, very interesting man, and I just rang him recently. We were just having a chat, and I just said, "How's business?" And Sean said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, right now the weather has turned against us, and you know, so we've got that tap turned on, and we're fighting back." And that was an interesting point, and I mentioned, would it be helpful if we were to think about an idea called whether or not, and get as much as we could from people like yourselves, because they have lots of ideas about how to do that. And it behoves all of us to have ideas about what can be done. So, did you do that on purpose, Steve? You did.
Exactly what it's about. Doesn't remind me guys.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. There's some of the ideas I came up with. Talking to Bob, talking to Sean and a couple of other people. What can we do? Not, by the way, when it happens, but in preparation for when it happens. So, number 1, watch the weather reports, plan promotions, notify people by text, whatever you normally do. Okay? You know, be on the attack. Don't let the weather, you know, defeat sales and what have you. Help associates to sell in the second gap. Number 3, I'll help you with that. If you want to run a Skype training session, if sales are not where you want them to be, I'd be happy to run a session for you. Caravels. Now, how many have we done so far, Rick?
About 6, maybe?
6. Are they helping?
Yeah.
Rob, could you remove this gentleman, please? So seriously, if there is a seriously, I mean, we've had 6 sessions so far, just, you know, maybe a month or so apart. How do they help? I mean, they are a contribution, that's all they are. We don't kid ourselves that associates are going to get their main help outside the store, they're going to get it inside the store, but it's always nice inside the store to have confirmation from outside the store. So, just very briefly, tell us about how it helps you. I know it's not in relation to this specific idea.
Well, you are, you know, in that the Skype situation, I think what it does is, you know, our people want, when we say, what do you want? The number one thing that comes up is we want more training. And we can sit there and come back from these meetings and talk and talk and talk and say the exact same thing, but when John says it, it's like, oh, wow, yes. And they get it. And I was like, well, wait, what's the difference? Because he has an accent? I mean, I have a Southern accent. He's probably like, well, what is it? But it really does reinforces what you're trained if you have a program. It seems that the light goes on.
Tell us, how many stores do you have?
We have 2.
Okay, fine. Oh, well, thank you again for the invitation. And I keep a note of all the meetings, by the way, so I do my best to make sure that, you know, we cover different, we don't want to desert the second gap and go off on a tangent, but we do want to be able to, you know, keep ramming the point home and coming up with examples and what have you. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that. If you feel that, you know, you need to fight back, get the associates more up and at them, so to speak, or we have a 50-minute film that you can use snippets of, or all of it, which was done for Abu who are here today. I met them in Atlanta, wasn't it? Yeah, and very helpful. So we did some sessions for them, and then they were kind enough to let us film a session. So that session's available if you'd like to, you know, have a copy of it. Just a YouTube link, easy to get hold of, easy to use, and you can use it with individuals. You can use it with a team. You can use it for 10 minutes, you can use the whole film, entirely up to you. Incentivize associates to improve items per ticket results. You know, that's an important one which we will find time to talk about today, if we can make time. But that's, again, from my point of view, from all my experience in sales and management and what have you, this is really missing from the shoe industry. Okay? The people are not incentivized to be winners. You know, we have to remember, if we dig into this subject, that selling is an unusual, different kind of occupation, okay, where we require people to, you know, get into the unknown, to do stuff for people that was not asked or expected. And they have to learn how to do that. And they have to learn how to do it very well, consistently. So to do that, it helps to incentivize them in ways that are interesting and helpful, and most importantly, they pay for it themselves, if you understand what I mean. The higher sales see to it that the incentives will be paid for. So I'm not advocating spending money left, right, and center. I'm talking about serious. I had to do this in Australia as head of sales for an organization, and you know, because you know, in most organizations, the only way to get on is to get out. That's the only way you can get on. Get out of the job you're in and up into a higher job or into another company that will treat you more better than we do. So that's ridiculous. That can't work. So the idea is to help people to be successful right where they are. They don't need to be promoted. What they need is the opportunity. And as we've discussed before, the moment you incentivize people properly and in a dynamic way, one of 2 things will happen. They'll either step forward to get some help, or they will step back because they don't want to be in the spotlight. And that will tell you a lot about whether you've got the right people. Could you get that for me, Steve? Is it Donald? So what is your problem? What exactly is your problem? Donald, Donnie, and I, Donnie and Johnny, that's what we call each other. I don't know why, we do. We're in touch all the time. We talked the other day about possibly attacking North Korea and China at the same time. See, because, yeah. All I said was, you just allow me to get out of the country first, and then we'll go from there. Do we use 30 seconds to 1 minute when customers are first seated to explain special buying opportunities we offer, such as customer rewards, so they think twice about using the store to order online or try another store in the future? Now, I got a call from a lady on the East Coast some time ago, and she told me that the number of people that were coming into her store, trying shoes on, and then inexplicably not buying them, that she knew what they were doing. Everybody knows what they're doing. And she said it's becoming epidemic. Is that right or wrong? Does that happen a lot or not? Okay, well, the point is, what are we going to do? Complain about it or do something about it? If you have a rewards program in the store, then let people know what it is from the outset. Take 30 seconds to explain it to people. That's part of that first part of the service, is let them know what they're likely to miss out on, okay, if they decide to go elsewhere. So that's very important. From my point of view, it's very important that you let them know from the outset that we have a rewards program. Just explain it very briefly. The seed is sown, and then they know. And that will make them think twice, at least, about going anywhere else, etc., or going online, etc. So tell and sell is what I mentioned before. So tell and sell simply goes like this. And I have an article that I wrote about it, and I can send you a copy of it. Tell and sell is tell the person what you're going to do, such as measuring their feet, such as looking for pain-related problems, whatever it happens to be, bringing out shoes that were not asked for, tell them what you're going to do, and then explain why you're doing it on their behalf. Okay? Very acceptable in consumer. Very acceptable. What isn't acceptable is asking, can I do it, or just doing it without an explanation. Tell and sell. Very, very simple to learn and to execute. Are the associates right for our store? You know, how they comply with our service process and present our positive points of buying difference? Well, that's for you to decide, but I hope at all times you're thinking about that. Do we have the right people in the store? Because if you ever find out that you have the wrong people, not only will they not produce, they'll poison other members of the team. Not on purpose, but they'll poison other members of the team. Because the rest of the team will say to themselves, I wonder why management keeps going to the pulpit and saying we should do this and that when so-and-so's still here. He doesn't do any of those things. Are the goals we set for our associates fair in relation to their current contribution levels? So all that means is that we find out what contribution is being made by associates and set our goals accordingly, and always looking for a higher level of contribution from each of the associates, no matter what their current level is. So you may have, say, 100%, and somebody currently, let's say you've got 4 people, one's producing 40%, you know, another one's producing 10% because they're not been with you long, etc., etc. You know, don't go and set the goal on the division of 4 or whatever it happens to be. Just make sure that it's based on the contribution. Otherwise, you're going to punish yourself. Do we have an ongoing store-based and external training program? Well, that's, I think, what Caravels have been aiming to do, is to keep on having an injection from the outside of beliefs inside the store that the team can hear about, etc. So as I said, I'm happy to help you with that anytime at all. You had a lady just recently, they just had real problems setting up Skype, so here's what we did. She organized for me to talk to her team on the loudspeaker of her iPhone. And in advance, I sent her copies of visuals, such as the second gap and first gap, etc., that she would then share with the team, so when I'm talking to them, they can see exactly what I'm talking about. Absolute piece of cake. So one way or the other, we either do it on Skype, or we can do it sound only with the visuals. It works very well. Very well. Do we invite associates to become self-managers? Another major problem or opportunity, depending on how you look at it in the shoe business. Aware of their own results and seeking management help to improve their effective use of our service vendors. We actually have, as a PS service, an idea called self-management. And the idea, of course, is to ignite the self-control that an associate has. That they come looking for help, and they also tell you what it is that they're going to do in order to achieve their results, at which time you can talk to them about what their plan is like and what have you. The worst thing you can do is to leave them to their own devices, especially if they haven't got any. So when I first started in sales management, I was 25 years old. It does not seem like 15 years ago, but the point is, what? But seriously, when I first started, you know, I got anxious. So I rang every salesperson every night, and nobody knew where they were up to. You know, they were all busy doing this, that, and the other, and they actually didn't know. I'm the only one that knows. That's ridiculous. So after ringing them every night, which they thoroughly enjoyed, interrupting their dinner or whatever, they began ringing me. Why? Because they became more professional. No, they just wanted their dinner in peace. Hey, not that. I don't care. But they eventually, when they did ring me, they at least knew where they were up to. Don't have associates who are not self-managers. You know, the job of management is not to manage staff, it's to lead staff. They're supposed to learn how to manage themselves. Otherwise, you're going to dilute your time. Have we created a special incentive scheme? Talk to me about that anytime you like. I've already mentioned it. From my point of view, a major opportunity in the industry that very few stores are acting upon. Okay, I know you've got to investigate it. I had to investigate it. I had to fight like hell to get it through in Australia when I was introducing our kind of incentives and so forth. But they're very worthwhile. Is management applying positive pressure on the sales associates to keep them focused, keen, and effective? So positive pressure might be a 10-minute meeting every morning for whatever staff are there to do some work. Nothing heavy, informal. I call it keeping the kettle on the boil. Okay, so the idea is that they arrive, maybe they're not in the best of moods. That's not a good idea to let them loose on your customers. So 10 minutes only. Margaret has been doing a great job this week. Well done, Margaret. Don't talk about any negative results. Just, you know, and then talk to them, remind them about things we've got to do today, promotions that we're running, whatever else you want. Just bring the kettle back to the boil and get them out there. And I've got one of the PS services. Many of you will already have a copy of this, but we've got extra copies here today if you don't have it. This lists all of the current PS services available. And one of them is called positive pressure. How do you apply this positive pressure to your staff? Lots of simple ideas for when the store is quiet and you want to make some positive noise. And you'll see I said positive pressure here. I'm not talking about anything that's negative at all helpful stuff. Because most managers, of course, are on the floor themselves, so they don't have time to go around running meetings all day long. Are we involving customers in endorsing the standards that we are enforcing with the sales team? So just remember that, endorsement and followed by enforcement. Now, enforcement by management of what it is that we want to do is very hard unless the customers endorse it. And if they say, and you'll hear this from Bob and Jim later, that when they had their meeting, part of what they got out of it was that the staff heard from the customers how they like to be treated and how much they appreciated various things that you do for people. That's fantastic for staff to hear, because that's reminding them that not only does management want me to do that, our customers want me to do it as well. Do we have an active a program of promotion, advertising, PR, etc. to attract more consumers to visit the store? Well, I'm sure you've got that under control, but it's a critical factor. And don't forget, most of your advertising must be directed at the first gap, not the second gap. You can't explain the second gap in advertising. You are talking to a consumer who's looking for a good deal. Nothing cheap, but they're looking for a good deal. Get them into the store, and then go to work on them in the second gap. Okay? Right, Steve. Shop in shop. Please welcome Steve. No.
I'll just yell. Thank you, John. So we're not going to take up a lot of time on this, but I just want to take everyone through this briefly, and you'll get a chance to talk more with your salesperson during the show about it in detail. So any questions today, feel free to shout those out as well. But yeah, we're really excited to be launching what we're calling the Vionic Shop in Shop program from this show onwards. And we've been testing this program for the last couple of months at about 6 or 7 independent stores across the country, and it's going incredibly well. So we're now ready to kind of launch this and take it out to all of the appropriate partners. So what's the purpose of this? Well, first of all, in general our brand's doing well, and we're really happy with our distribution. We've been saying no to lots of major retailers that want to stock the brand. we're trying to protect basically the distribution that we have today. And the independent channel is a critical channel to us. This is one of the handful of channels that we've decided to focus on as a brand, and we're going to continue to focus on as a brand. So we need to do more business with this channel. That's the trade-off for saying no to the Macy's and the Sears and the famous footwears of the world that have been approaching us. So this is our idea for how we can do more profitable business together. And at the moment, we're going to target the top 10% of our independent partners at the moment with the shop-in-shop program. So this will be an invitation that's extended to you that your salesperson will be able to take you through. But I thought while we're all here quickly, I'll just take you through what it's all about. So this is a picture of a shop-in-shop mocked up in our office, which is basically the kiosk that you can see there, and then some optional nesting tables that have risers and things on them. There's a monitor. I know lots of you have probably got the monitor at the moment, so this is the same kind of idea of the monitor with technology video running on a loop that a consumer can kind of watch and hopefully learn what's different about Vionic. This is a mock-up of the various different options and kind of what size space is required to do one of these. The kiosk itself is about 8 foot by 8 foot, and then the tables, obviously come separately. So this is something that, essentially Vionic would fund for you. We'd invest in the kiosk, the installation, the delivery, all that kind of stuff, and you just need to have a space obviously available to put one of those kiosks or tables into. And here are some shots of it in situ at the moment in 6 or 7 stores that are already trialling one. So this is the Lucky Shoe store in Columbus, and you can see the kiosk there with the tables and some hang sell off to the side. This is Allen's Shoes in New Jersey, again with a kiosk and the tables. And then this is our most recent one, Ryan Richard from the Foot Spot in Kansas. I think this was installed last week. So that's the kiosk and the tables in Ryan's store there. So for those, again, 6 or 7 stores I think it is that we've been testing them over the last few months, they've been averaging a 50% increase in sell-through from the kiosk. Some of the stores have needed a few extra SKUs, but for the most part, it's actually been a genuine increase in sell-through that's led to an average of 50%. Some stores are getting even more than that, and some stores are a little less, but it's on the low end, it's still 30%, and the average across the group has been 50%. I haven't got a shot of it here, but Footwear Etc., who's one of our great partners in California, they have a store in San Mateo, which is the #1 Vionic store. They have about 120 Vionic SKUs in that store, so it's a really big presentation, obviously. So we put the kiosk into their store a few weeks ago, and they've had a 43% increase over the last couple of weeks with the same SKUs. It's just the same, assortment they already had, but putting the shop-in-shop in and improving the presentations had a major impact on sell-through. So that's why we're excited about it. We think this can be a self-funding exercise for us to invest. We'll probably be a couple of $1 million basically into these fixtures across the country in the top 10% of our independent partners. So we're really looking to create some kind of mini destinations in our best independent stores. What else will we do to help you with that? We will give you priority listing on the website, because ultimately this will be the kind of store we want a consumer to go to first and foremost. They're going to have the best experience to John's point, and that will be the go-to destination for the brand in that particular geography. So we'll list you on our retail locator as a priority or a shop-in-shop door that we want people to go to. There's some co-op dollars that we'll give you to go with it. We will ideally train up a specialist, an associate specialist in your store that'll get some free pairs of shoes, and that'll be kind of the champion of the kiosk. They'll keep it clean and tidy and all that kind of thing. And then we'll also have some exclusive product that's available to shop-in-shop doors as well. So we'll give you a chance to have a couple of styles of season that are only available in shop-in-shop doors and online or anywhere else as well, if that's of interest to you too. So what have you got to do? Basically, have a space, and then there's a minimum SKU count that goes with it, which is 40 SKUs on the low end. And I'm not sure how many SKUs you've got in your business at the moment, but that's basically the commitment that we're looking for from anyone that wants to participate in this program. So as I mentioned, your sales team have a great presentation on this for you, all of the the nitty-gritty detailed information for you, and they'll certainly be talking to you in due course about whether this is the right option for you. And if it's not, that's okay too. We can still do great business together, I'm sure. But if it is something that you can do, we're really confident based on the test that it's going to drive a serious increase in sell-through and profitability for both of us. So any questions on that right now? I know it's the first time you've seen it. It might take some time to digest the information, but if there's any obvious questions or thoughts right now, happy to answer them.
Is the video available to other vendors, to other people?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got the monitor separately, which we've had for a couple of years now. You can definitely have a monitor in your existing display if you'd like to that has the same video content. Yeah.
Just contact our rep.
Absolutely, yeah. Your rep can definitely help you with that, no problems at all. And we provide those for free as well.
8 feet seems like a large amount of space for some stores.
Yep.
Is there a smaller concept to this, or?
Not at the moment. There might be in phase 2 or 3 ultimately, but at the moment we're trying to target our top, 10%, and that holds about the 40 SKUs. So the 8-foot kiosk has hang sell capability on the side. So if you want to hang sell flip flops or orthotics or whatever it is on the side, or shelving, that's kind of on the side of the kiosk just here. That has that functionality as well. So you could get some inventory on it too. But yeah, at the moment, unfortunately, 8 foot's the minimum size that we've got for phase 1.
Question, is each row of shoes lighted with LED lighting?
It is, yeah. So there's lighting under each shelf that lights down onto the shoe. So all you need is basically a power outlet. There's one outlet required behind that you just plug it into, and that powers the lighting and the monitor. Tom?
Steve, the common store will be installed that in March. It's up 100% over last year.
100%. So the 50% on my ruling was conservative. No, the 50% is the average, but yeah, Tom was just saying that Columbus is up 100%, which is terrific.
Is there any sort of outdoor signage that would also be included, or something that, from the, if we have windows.
Sure.
So people driving by, something that would say something like, oh, well, this is a Vionic shop and shop store.
Yeah, so we're gonna give you some co-op each year to go with the with the shop in shop. So you can certainly be using the co-op contribution to produce some signage if that's something that you want to do in your store. Gina will be producing templates that you can use if you want to advertise, whether it's banner ads on your social stuff or whether it's a print ad. We'll have templates each season that specifically call out Vionic shop in shop for your location. So yeah, I mean that's something we can customise locally for you.
Are you combining the e-shop with this at all?
Yeah, so the e-shop would be replaced by this ultimately. The e-shop concept, it hasn't really worked as well for the transactional side of it. It's definitely generating interest in selling more shoes that are on the shelf, but this is kind of really the updated version of the e-shop, I suppose, without the online transactional capability. It's more just the the video presentation itself and the display. Any other questions? Okay, so yeah, again, your sales rep will be able to take you through this in more detail. Rob, myself, will all be at the show as well if you want to, ask anything more of us. And if this is something that's right for you, fantastic. If it's not, that's okay as well. But we hope we'll at least be able to have a conversation with lots of you about it. So with that, we're going to take a short coffee break now, about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back on the other side of that and keep going to another set.
How did it work out?
Okay, so as John mentioned earlier, we're going to have a session with Morris Breton here in a minute, but before we do that, we've got a special presentation from Rick from Caravel. He's going to come up and just share a few thoughts that he's got as well, which I'm sure will be entertaining.
So John, some of the things you said reminded me things. We have a Del Webb outside of Austin, Georgetown, and in our Austin paper there was an article about the rise of STD in seniors all over the country. And so the CDC was trying to figure out where it was happening, all right? And they went out and checked it all, and there were 3 locations where the highest STD was. So guess where it was? In Del Webb's area. So you're...
Nice community, John.
Let's see. So, just a little bit about us. Carabao Shoes was founded in 1937. It was the second Bush-Bar shoe store in the United States. It's now the largest comfort shoe store company with 2 locations in Silver, Texas. So we were between the State and Paramount Theaters, and Buster Brown, the man who played it, actually lived in Austin, but he wouldn't travel. So my dad hired this person to stand out front on Saturdays. The only thing I'm missing looks like it's a cigarette. That was the right side, left side of what the store looked like, and this is the inside. So the person to the left is my father, the person to the right is Bob Crock, and the name, 2 fraternity brothers, Carabel, that's where it came from. Dad couldn't remember who the middle guy was. It was some salesman he just couldn't remember. So this is where we are today. We just went from 15,000 feet. We had women's, we had an outlet, we had a wellness department, and then we had men's in one building, and we moved everything into this building, 6,000 feet. Men's on one side, 3,000, which is men's and athletic, and then women's on the other side. This gives you an idea a little bit about the men's area and part of the women's area, and that's the Vionic there right there. We do have a shop and shop coming in. And that's the other side, so you can see the pass-through. So we've been dealing with John about at least 6 sessions now. And so what we did is, this is our staff. It was the last meeting we held. And so we're going to show you a little bit about John in his presentation. And there's something that, if you really look hard, you know those little, in the cartoons, they have pictures and they say, what do you see here and what do you see here, and try to figure out what the difference is. There's one consistent thing in each one of these slides, and let's see if you can figure out what it is. So there's John coming out behind. There he's thinking about talking. Here again, he's really looking into the camera. There again, he's doing something there. So, can anybody guess? There's a problem. Now, we've had problems with Skype. One time, Skype didn't work, and he did it over the phone, and that worked fine. But there's one consistent problem. So, how many of you use John for Skyping? For those who haven't, it's fabulous. So, we figured out how to take care of this problem. The shine. The shine. So these are some of the testimonials. John gives a refreshing approach to the typical sales training session. He's engaging, funny, and a lot of great advice in the sales process. He's really opened my eyes regarding the second gap. I thought I was going above and beyond before, and now I realize there are more things I can work on and become even better at building customer relationships and closing the second gap. Thanks, John. That's from Lauren. I very much enjoyed John Lee's skill presentation of the 2 gaps, helping us to make our associates be more successful. John Lee's brought some creative and innovative ideas to the table that have helped our sales staff think about the next level of sales. Our team was engaged and came away with some unique tools to continue to improve our sales process. He gives a thought-provoking presentation with his own unique blend of comedy and business acumen, and used simple, insightful ideas that were specifically tailored to the needs of Carabao Shoes. And that's from my book. So, you asked me a question, how are we doing? And I fudged a little bit, all right. So our 6 months is in, we're up about 11%. The month of July, our round lock store was up 40%, and our main store was up 19%, and this was after the last presentation that he made. So business is up, Vionic business is up, they're our number 4 vendor. They're running about 50% increases going on right now. So what I wanted to do is, this is from the staff, and hopefully, we wanted you to use this, and for those people who, are going to use his Skype in the future, you won't have this problem. So, John, this is from you, from our staff.
Thank you very much.
the last Skype session you'll be getting. Huh? Well, you can tell me. Pro Contour Brush. Remember that, whatever that is? Revlon Palisade. So I get the message. You want me to be invisible or something? Corey, you can take that look off your face. Yeah, you've done well. Oh, well. Anyway, Rick, thank you. That was not expected, but very nice of you. Thank you. Just before I introduce Morris, I just wanted to... Does anybody other than me ever have bad dreams occasionally? I had a dream just recently that was so bad I thought not only was I going to die, I was actually going to get killed. Here's the lead up. I was at home, I had my offices at home and so forth. And we have a bookkeeper, her name is Yvonne, very nice lady. And my wife came into the office one day when Yvonne was there and saw that Yvonne was sitting on my knee, jumped to conclusions, wanted to know what the hell's going on. I told her that I was practicing to be a ventriloquist. I don't think she bought that. She then left the room. She came back with a mallet. And she said, "That's it, you're gone." And she chased me around the house with this mallet for 20 minutes. And I was exhausted. And eventually, with exhaustion, I collapsed. I hit my head on some furniture. I passed out. And that's when the dream started. Anyway, but I don't want to go into the dream right now, it's not important. So, it's my great pleasure to introduce Morris to say a few words, and we're hoping to do this kind of thing at every PS meeting if we can. And I want to give you a little bit of background, and I'm sure Morris will fill you in. He is the president and founder of Comfort Management Corporation, with 20 retail stores trading under the name of Comfort One Shoes. Over the past 24 years, this family-owned and operated regional chain has become the Mid-Atlantic's largest privately held shoe store group, with locations in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So Morris has served on the National Shoe Retailers Association board since 1997. He sits on the executive board. National Shoe Retailers named the company and its founder as NSRA Retailer of the Year in 2011. Please give Morris a very warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that incredible introduction. I'm not sure if I gave you any of that information, or you were just stalking me over the years, I'm not sure. Anyway, I always had trouble remembering jokes. Just can't remember jokes. Didn't get any easier in the last few years. And I thought for like 2 weeks, a great joke. Oh, jeez. I finally came up with one. The problem is it was John's joke, so I can't even use it. So I have no jokes to start off with. I have no screens, no slides. I need a podium really to talk for a long time, so it's not going to be a long speech. I have no gifts. I have none of that. Horrible disadvantage here I didn't know I was getting myself into. I am from the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is a very historic Commonwealth. Great place to live, love it. The Civil War ended on April 9th, 1865. The fighting continued for over 90 days after the war ended. Dozens of people died after the war was over. That was the way you got, the message to Kentucky was, days and days and days.
Yesterday, a very tragic thing in the Commonwealth. Knew instantly what was going on, updated all day. The point is, things have really changed. Today, customers are into instant gratification, instant comfort, instant experience, instant coffee. I mean, anything, right? They want it now. They want it quick, they want it now. Their time stressed, and the competition's never been what it is today. National Shoe Retail is over 100 years old. I read their history. The concern, the number one concern, like 92 years ago, was the Sears catalog. We're doomed. There's nothing we can do to fight the Sears catalog. Better just close up now. Not gonna, that Sears catalog, man, we can't compete against that. Well, the ones that took care of the business, took care of the business and survived. The next thing was the department stores have the same brands. We've got a 62 pair run of this Selby shoe. They've got 6 pairs. They're running 30% off. We have to match the price. How are we going to get people doomed? We're doomed. We can't make it. Just fold up shop right now. Those people that took care of their business properly survived and flourished. Then, of course, same thing happened with the rack rooms, the DSWs and the one. What the hell are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? Oh my God. Again, people maneuvered, reinvented themselves, concentrated on what they can affect, concentrated on their businesses, and did well. It's obviously the internet today. I mean, I was in a little True Value hardware store that started in 1922, happens to be in Manassas, still in business. They said Home Depot came, no problem. Lowe's came, no problem. No problem. Amazon's a problem. Because now you can find that little 3-inch screw with the hexy top or whatever you need online. We used to go in there, make a trip and see it. So all the unique stuff that they had is now on Amazon. Went to the dentist. Said our dental magazine came out. A big post-it note. Amazon now sells dental equipment, drills, x-ray machines, whatever you need, we got it. There's a business that isn't being affected and changed. Look at the taxis. That done and happy? Things change. So, we have to change. Every single resource, supplier of ours, has to do what is best for their business, period. They have to. I get that. We have to do what's best for our business. Don't underestimate your brand. You're the brand. Woman gets a pair of shoes, she goes in the office. Those are fantastic! What does she say?
Great.
What does she say?
Where'd you get it?
Where did you get them? Not what brand they are. Where did you get them? Right? So don't underestimate your brand. Let's see here. A few things that you have to concentrate on to be successful and to get through this and to be actually very successful on the other side of this. Because it's not going away. Amazon's not getting smaller. I'm sure you can buy a casket on Amazon. You know, this is the business they aren't into. And you know, not only that, the funeral director's got 4 caskets, they've got 4,000 to choose from. So, everything's changing. Here's what you gotta do. You gotta train your people to sell shoes and accessories. ABT, always be training. We've had a training department in our company for 20 years. 18 years, whatever, very close to it. It's very important. Here are our standards. Very important and non-negotiable. I was in a huge 30,000 square foot store in the Northeast, talking to the founder's son, the owner, current manager of the business. You know, a few people in the store. I said, what are your standards? So it's a minimum of 3 pair. Now, I'm somewhat outspoken. I said, well, let me tell you something. You get 5 demonstrations. And 1 come out, I don't have your size. You've got 3 1-pair set demonstrations and 1 2-pair. There's not 1 3-pair going on right now when you and I are standing here on the floor. I left soon after, but, you know. I mean, you know, and he was complaining about the internet, complaining about, you know, Macy's, and complaining about Nordstrom's, complaining about, but your own standards, your non-negotiable standards, you're standing on the floor, I can see this, are you oblivious to it? Or you just let your standards go to hell? Sorry, I feel a little strongly about that, sorry. Is your store clean? Is your store clean? Are the lights on in your store? Are your displays and windows sensational? You're not gonna affect Amazon. You're not gonna affect you're not gonna affect Clark's internet policy, Echo's internet policy. You're not gonna do that. There's no effect on that. Is your store up to par? Would you want to shop in your store? Are your wrap stands a disgusting mess? Is your stock organized in such a way that your sales associates can find what they're looking for and easily expand the demonstration into other categories, build on the sale? Or you just throw it in my vendor, that's how my granddad did it, just throw it in there. Yeah, hash wall and this, and that one goes left to right, this one goes right to left. And, you know, organize your stock rooms so that you can maximize your demonstrations. We tell our sales associates to immediately take charge. Maybe we try to go step 2 a little quick, but take charge. Customer's in there, she wants some help, she doesn't know what the hell's going on. I wear a 7B, she measures a 41. You know, yes, of course, man. He's European, that's 41. And, you know, take charge. You know, you have any ambulance, anything bother you, need? Oh, yeah. You go into Europe and come on. Let me show you this walking shoe. I know you came in for sandals, but give me a walking shoe. Expand the demonstration, expand it. Right? You're maximizing your add-ons. Are you measuring your items per sale? Are you measuring your multi-shoe rates, which are 2 different things? Are you measuring your attachment rates to inner soles? Are you monitoring these things statistically? Sales per hour, multi-shoe rates, inner sole attachment, big sales. You gotta monitor these things. Sean is our Senior Vice President of Stores. We monitor that plus what? What did I miss?
In terms of multi-categories?
Yep.
Multi-rates, we do.
Big sales, multi-rates.
Percentages to shoe sales, shoe clubs, everything. Not much of this on.
Yeah. So this is, we have a shift starter for everyone in the morning. They know they're supposed to do $1,800, so 4 inner soles, change the light bulbs in the men's room, whatever. At the end of the day, they put into the system that they did, you know, $1,900, right? They sold 6 inner soles, and they had selling rates of 18%. And it cumes it all week long. Oh, geez, Wednesday, I got chills. I can make it up and make my goal up tomorrow. And I have to do like 2,500 tomorrow. So they're responsible, and they're managing their performance, and it's monitored very, very well and organized in a positive way. So we believe to be hard on the numbers, soft on the people. You sit down, when you have the statistics, you can sit down and talk about the numbers. Mark, you scanned 20 people last week. You sold 2 inner soles. Rick, you scanned 20. You worked about the same schedule as Rick. You scanned 20 people. You sold 18 inner soles. Mark, 16 inner soles, 10%. Whatever that, you know, it's like that's $60 a week difference. You know, is that important to you? Okay. That's $3,000 a year. Is that important to you? Yeah. It's right there, man. So do you need some more training on once you scan? You're doing the heavy lifting. You're scanning, but you're not attaching. So we can get that specific. And I would encourage all of you to. And also make sure your salespeople know what is expected of them every day. People want to know what you expect. You just give them a shoe on every morning and go off. Oh, I did $600. It's good. No, we wanted 1,800. Anything above 1,800 is good, great. Anything below is not there. Okay, tomorrow's another day. Happens. I know you get a lot of returns. You know, I know you start off with $2,000 in the hole. Get all the way up to 600 positive. I know that happens. Today, customer service that is known is just not good anymore. Not good enough anymore. It's got to be superior. It's got to be an experience. We are fighting for dollars from restaurants, Six Flags, cruises. Those are the dollars that we're fighting for. Everyone have a good time. They want to have a great experience. Yeah, they need a pair of shoes, but they want to have a great experience. Anyway, you need to encourage your sales associates to have fun with the customers. Very, very important. You can't say no to somebody you really like, first of all. Secondly, they remember the experience. That's where I go to get my shoes. You know, Todd waits on me, we have a blast. Every time I go, it's fun. Anyway, don't worry about Amazon. Worrying is the misuse of your imagination. Get creative in your own organizations. Find out what the hell's going on. Drill down. Be statistical. Analyze. Train, train, train. I assume everyone has a unit control system that analyzes performances by category, by sales associate, by brand. Brands change. You couldn't run a shoe store without Bass Legions at one point. Anybody carry Bass Legions? Okay. They're still doing as good as they used to? I don't think so. Things change. You know, it is what it is. Farmer Lowry, oh my God, I'm taking the Farmer Lowrys. And then we all get them too many. It happens. And you know, and I'm going to kind of conclude here with a Yelp review that I think summarizes exactly what I've been talking about. It's really a terrific review in my opinion. I stopped in to comfort one's shoes by the urging of a coworker. She wanted to see if there was a clearance sale, and there was. Chrissy made our shopping experience a party. That's right. People we spent, that's right, people. She's saying people to the group. We spent the whole visit smiling and laughing. Even the fiasco of my necklace breaking at the checkout counter was met with all hands on deck, and wait for it, more smiles and giggles. Today I visited a happy place. I've never had such a great experience shoe shopping. I likely went in for a wonderful pair of running shoes that hug my feet. Go get your happy. That's good. I'm done.
Thank you, Morris.
You're welcome.
Now, I'm sure you have some questions. I'm going to kick it off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to kick it off.
Oh,
Yeah, if you don't mind.
okay. All right. Sorry. My one slide that I didn't produce, I forgot all about.
So one of the questions I have of you, Sean, is how do you know? So you've got standards, you've got a way of doing things, okay? You talked about the fun factor, which you may realize I seem to agree with. People deserve to be entertained, okay? How do you know if people are actually performing according to the standards? You know if they're getting their sales results, that's obvious. But how do you know if they are delivering on your management promise to the consumers?
First thing we look at, we call them the quality numbers. Those are all the numbers other than just the sales. Because we can have a guy that's a hot dog on the floor and selling, and he's not providing us, so he's not measuring, he's not scanning, he's not. So we look at all those numbers. We monitor that very, very closely. And we praise in public. We have a Saturday morning meeting to all staff once a month. And, we coach in private. What would you add to that, John? Sacred shops, yeah.
What about supervision? Yeah, because one of the problems that anyone in management has that's responsible for sales, and you can imagine if you have reps who are geographically all over the place, and everybody, basically, and they're not lying, they agree with what you've come up with, okay? But putting it into practice, and for management to know whether it's being put into practice, is a critical factor of management's promise to the consumer. So, some people may say it's easy to do in a shoe store. What are you supposed to do? Get your binoculars out and watch the staff, the way they operate and what have you. How do you know if they are delivering day by day? I don't mean all day long, but actually delivering on the service that you come up with.
Customers will comment, if the reputation customers will comment on their sales.
Well, start with the shift starter. This is what you expected. Then you put it into this beat the week format, which tunes everything. I oftentimes, and Sean does too, go into the store and see the beat the weeks. Oh man, he's doing great. His Sunday rate's a little off. Mr. Manager, they need more training, and we have some little catch-up, what they call like a refresher card, if you will. And then if need be, we'll send it back to class. Right. Send a corporate trainer on site, spend a couple of weeks with them. Things improve.
But you're doing training all the time anyway, aren't you? Yes. Okay. Right.
I think that what you're asking is, we have tons of numbers that are results, and we use those. If the results are good, generally, the process is happening. But that's not how we track the process. We have a 10-step selling program, and we have secret shops all the time, and they're based directly off of the 10-step selling program.
Okay.
So if you do everything that we ask, you get a perfect score, and then those are all tabulated, and then there's feedback loop from Sean to managers about who's doing what.
Right.
So that's how we make sure that the process is happening, and then the results are byproducts.
Yep.
And we also measure closely.
The staff knows that these are read by Sean to the senior management and ownership of the company weekly. It's that important. It's not something a little program that's going to go away. We've had it for how many years? 2010, so we've had it for about 7 years.
Okay, what other questions have you got? Let's shoot them, please, and find out what's going on. Yes, thank you.
Hi, my husband and I are retailers from Hawaii.
Oh, great.
And I have a question. As independents over the years, because you are on the internet, like with Amazon and all of that, it has kind of hindered business. So, as far as being retailers, independent retailers, how do you address, the conflicts between internet sales and for us doing
Retail.
Yeah, doing retail.
I think it's through like incredible experiences on the selling floor, not just you want the nail, okay, letter to 39, here it is. I mean, talking about really expanding the excitement and the fun and the service to each individual. I think that cannot be duplicated on Amazon. I know it can't. And we're at a point with 20 stores, we are able to buy product exclusively out of Europe, put it into our labels, and that's part of it. And I don't want to, oh, I won't. If you're in the commodity business today and all you're selling are shoes that are all over the internet, and you think you gotta have these brands, and you measure someone for a blank mock, and the guy wears it for 3 years, he looks in, it's a 10.5, he's buying his underwear. You're doing all the work the first time, measuring him, taking care of him. Now it's, oh, it's there $5 less. So you gotta think about your business. I came out of the corporate department store business and corporate 150 store retail shoe chain. So my background's a little more corporate. You are the brand. You are the brand. I think if I could criticize the entire independent retail world, you hang your hat on a brand and things change. And you hang your hat in the brand, and I gotta have Clark's, I gotta have, whatever, Merrill. I got your business. You can. You figure it out. You try alternatives. If you're not making money with that brand, you're not turning those shoes. I'm bad, and Garrett's worse. It was a great brand for a number of years. Ghost March Airlines going like this, Squire's going like this. They're going like this. So I got my foot on this stuff. Anyway, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I think one thing that the difference is, and I think it's being shown up with millennials, et cetera, is it's the immediacy. The difference is that they can go on Amazon, but they're going to still wait a couple of days to get it, where they get it in your shop. Before you had sales tax. Now Amazon has to charge sales tax in almost every state. The states have figured out we're losing billions of dollars. Then MAP pricing. So, we're a couple of dollars over MAP in certain areas, that type of situation. So those advantages aren't the same as before they had a much bigger advantage, and now they don't. But the most important thing is, somebody walks in, they want that product immediately, and it's really interesting. So that's where you compete. If you don't have it, then maybe you need to find out what you're missing and make sure you do that.
What used to work does not work anymore. What used to work does not work anymore. We opened 24 years ago, got a lot of nailed. I used to suggest it was double plus $1.50 or something. I would go double plus $25, and the shoes blew out 5-time turns. I could get away with that. I need margin. I'm in a big city. I get high rents. So that's how I did it. I can't do that anymore. I got to be a penny over MAP price. I got to be a penny over. I'd like to be a penny under at the time, but I got to be a penny over. Just what used to work does not. You got to be creative. You got to reinvent yourselves in a way. Yes.
No, I wanted to get back to the other question that John had asked early on. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. You asked the question when I first started in this business and grew up in it, obviously we'd go out to our stores. We had 10 stores at one time. And we'd stand out in front of the store, we'd watch the employees, and they always felt like, hey, they're watching me. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Go back, sit down with the manager, go through the numbers and all that kind of stuff, and tell them this has got to change, this has got to improve. But what I do now works so much more successful. Yes, I do come to them with numbers, but how do you bridge the gap between teaching the people what it is that you want to do? And how I do it is, when they're out on the floor and they're working with a customer, I'll come out on the floor, get a customer, and have them sit down right next to where they are. And while I'm talking to them, that customer, they're listening to me, and I'm also listening to them. Then when we both get done and we're in the back room putting shoes away, I'll sit down and discuss with them the things that I do and how it's more successful. But by them being able to see me do it firsthand, that is is more helpful than having a sales meeting once a week and go over how we want it done. Because now they can see it now.
Well, it's role-playing in a way, but
Yeah.
it's a great way to do it.
Yeah. I would have thought that was very important, to be able to, the management in quiet time, sit down with associates in an acceptable way and have them go through the process. If you go through the process, they go through the process. No arguments, because we're here to learn, we're here to improve. This is what you're doing well, this is where you need to improve. If they know that you are paying attention to that, to their conduct, as well as to their results, they're more likely to do something about it. If the management focus is only on the results, then they'll always try and find excuses. You know, all sorts of excuses. Any other questions for Morris?
Let me just tell you one thing how I approach a store. Have I got time?
Sure.
First thing I do is hide the doorway. And I wait to see a customer coming by, with or without a bag. He came out of the store. I pull over, I give her my business card. I go to the store. You know, tell me about your experience. How was it? And you know, let me tell you something. You can get some pretty horrible feedback sometimes. And you can also get some great feedback. So I hang out like on the corners and edges of the store, and then I come right in like this, even quicker without the boot. And I look at the demonstrations. John's got 9 pairs out. He's got 7 pairs out. He's got 5 pairs out. He's got 1. Then I make a call. He's just fired and now I make a call. Anyway, they know that that's going to happen. That's the first thing I do. Demonstrations. What's going on? How's the customers being helped? They're putting the shoes on. They got innersoles with the presentation. That tells me a lot. And oftentimes, the other thing I do, I'll go in and sit down next to a customer, talk to her, introduce myself. How you doing? Is this your first time here? Oh, I wish you was here, blah, 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 blah. Great. What can we do to help you better? What can we do? And they'll tell you, a couple of them said, your return policy is not the best. Garrett went out and got a Harvard business study, analysis of return policies. And we changed our return policy to,
What's that? If you join the Comfort Club, which is us to get your information, your email, cell phone number, etc., we guarantee that you'll be happy. So whatever you want to do, take it back, we'll give you money back, we'll change shoes, we'll trade stuff.
Yeah, 5-year-old shoes you're not happy with, take them back. We don't care.
Could you
It's
repeat
not
it?
worth it. It's not worth it to lose a customer over that. And there were a few of them, we used to have 30 days not worn, check back and all this, we were too tight. Now in New York, they have signed $25 return fee, $10 fee with the box, no box, 5 days, no money back. But, those are.
Would you repeat what he said, because we couldn't.
Okay, Garrett said, if you belong to our club, our shoe club, our loyalty club, we guarantee that you will be happy with the shoes. And we will cheerfully, what's the other word? Cheerfully and gladly. Okay, read it out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get it.
That would have the paper.
Club Comfort Guarantee, as Comfort One Shoes has complete confidence that we're selling the highest quality products available from around the globe. Our highly trained team will help you select the footwear that's just right for you. As a Club Comfort member, we guarantee that you'll love your new shoes. Come and ask any associate for details.
No, customer comes in with a bag of shoes to return, take care of them, the club members. We did have a store that the husband came in, the wife came in with big garbage bags. And they walked in, and they had 65 pairs of worn shoes to return. Mom died. So here are all the shoes from the last 20 years that she bought here, and we'd like our money back. Are you members of the club? No, we don't shop here. I'm just. Okay. So we ended up, every shoe that was current, we gave them a gift card to credit for.
That was the only one that hasn't gotten
That's the other one hasn't really got. That was just 65 pairs, mom's dead.
In trash
A little
bags.
much. In trash bags, yeah. I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thanks to say.
If I had a podium, John, you know, with some slides.
No, not going to be a podium, Morris. Sorry. I am grateful for that contribution, thank you. And when Morris was saying, you know, what used to work doesn't work, that's why the most progressive businesses do not follow conventional thought, such as if it's not broken, don't fix it. Okay? Can you imagine what would happen in the medical world if they had that attitude? No? They fix it and then immediately go back to the lab to improve it. Okay? And that's what good businesses do. Okay? It's not looking for problems or mistakes, it's looking for ways to improve what we do. And as I've said many times before, don't talk to your staff about the need to change, talk to them about the need to improve. Change threatens to rearrange what they've become comfortable with. Whereas improvement demands that we all lift our game, go to a higher level, make things better for our customers, and also make things better for the store and for ourselves. I was talking to Sean before, and he wants to just tell us, Sean, what you have in mind with regards to this piece that we were doing earlier about, you know, the difference between, you know, cause and effect. Here are the results. We have very clear ways of measuring this, and that's why I was asking the question, how do you know if these things are being done? Because, you know, the thing is that if it was very easy to move from here to here, then everybody would be doing it, and they don't, okay? They simply don't. It's not natural for a person to do that. One of the main reasons it's not natural is because they, as consumers in our society, are sold to in ways that they don't appreciate. There are many, many ways in which they are sold to. Retail, telemarketers, it doesn't matter what it is. They don't like the way they're being sold to, and they don't want to get involved in doing the same thing. So we have to sell them on selling. And that's one of the sessions that we're going to run in the future on Skype. Well, what thoughts did you have in mind about this?
It's called Comfort One University. It's kind of the postgraduate work for our folks after they've gone through initial. Microphone, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. There we go.
We have what we call Comfort One University, which is kind of our postgraduate work for our folks. It is somewhere around their 6-month mark that they'll go through that. Like John's session there on the second gap to be part of that. So we'll Skype him in for one of the days that they're in Comfort One University.
Yeah, and we did a session recently, and
we
who
did
were those
with
people?
all rookies within their first week. Right. You and I had just happened to talk about the weather-related items, and called our corporate trainer. She had 4 people, I believe, in class at that time, and we Skyped John in within 2 hours or so.
I can't remember.
Yeah, very quickly. Much appreciated.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so one of the things I neglected to mention when we were talking about whether or not, and you know, the opportunity to sell extras and so forth, is that tree idea that we talked about 1 or 2 meetings ago, where at the close of a transaction, you ask and just say, I'd like to show you some items, please, and just split up a second, you go away, bring back, and actually put whatever the items are, shoe care accessories, any kind of additional things that install, anything that you feel that would be helpful to them, just bring it back and just say, I thought you'd like to see these because these actually complement the shoes that you decided to buy, and so forth. Just quickly explain it. Staff, customers love that. And Ulrich tested it immediately after the last time we talked about it. You had a very good result, yeah?
Yeah, it was a 30% increase in...
30% increase, but you also had, as I remember you saying, very positive comments from customers.
Yes.
Who were delighted to get that kind of opportunity, but in a low-key, professional manner, no big push. Yeah, because staff get worried about doing things like this. This makes it an official way of doing things. Okay, so you either have this one of 2 ways you have it. It's either optional or official. And optional means, you know, obviously we'd like you to do it, but if you don't get time, we understand, you know, the usual sort of nonsense, and they will go with optional. So make sure it's official, make sure it's something that customers like, etc. Okay. So now we wanted to go through a couple of items that we hope you find to be of interest. And this is a subject that we talked about internally. Chris, you and I spoke about this as it applies to Vionic as an organization, and maybe we'll go into more detail about it at some point, but it's something that I came about when I was writing a book called Center Field Marketing. So you have two forms of marketing. You have touchline marketing and center field. Center field is when you know exactly what's going on. You know what's going on with your consumers, you know what's going on with your staff, and you exert positive control. If you don't know what's going on, you're in big trouble. Imagine if you didn't know about results. You'd be in big trouble. So center field marketing is being there, part of the game. Touchline marketing is watching what's going on from a distance, and a lot of managers are distant from what goes on. They are administratively inclined, not architecturally inclined. They're not there to build and design the business. They're there to have a talk about it when sales are not so good and so forth. It's pathetic. So here we have, and I'm going to give you a copy of this when you leave today. The retail relay race. The baton, as in any race, in this instance represents success for all the team members. So the team members are the vendors. Starts off with the vendors. Second is management, who I've labelled as the captain here, because obviously it's in your interest to make sure that the entire team are performing as they're supposed to be. Then we've got the associates, and I've mentioned the two factors there. I'll come back to them. Consumers, and then the F stands for the finishing line. They're the last runners. So the question is, what kind of a race are we running? What control are we exerting here? So to start with the vendors, basically there's two things that I put it down to. One is they are product related. They've got product. Hopefully the product keeps on improving. Okay, their pricing policy, their every policy, every aspect of service that goes with supplying product to you. But ultimately they must sell productivity. So I've underlined the word product in the word productivity, meaning we want you to succeed with our product. Okay? Very important that that's what they sell. And certainly that's what Vionic is interested to do, which is why we introduced an idea called the Staircase Sales Plan, which actually begins with your result, our result if you like, with our brand. And then it works backwards from there. How are we going to make it happen? How are we going to make sure it is happening, etc. Because we don't like surprises, unwelcome surprises. So the question for you then is, are the vendors selling productivity or are they selling products? If they're selling products, they're distributors. If they sell productivity, they are both distributors and contributors. And every shoe store has to do the same thing, by the way. Morris, in his own way, touched on it. You're either an access point or an access and success point. If you don't include the success, there's really no point. You're going to die. It's about as simple as that. Access is a piece of cake for consumers. So, then we have management. And as I've already mentioned, management will have to take care of admin. It either hires people to do that, shares the responsibility, whatever the case may be. The point is, it has got to be done. And then there's leadership. And leadership has nothing to do with personality. Obviously, most of the women and men I've met that occupy leadership positions are very pleasant people to do business with. And they are that way within the business. Morris talked about a happy environment and what have you. God help people that don't have that. But managers should spread that around. And also times when things need to be serious. Okay? And then we go to the associates, and we've got to make sure that they're attending to our consumers well and achieving for them with the various brands that we have decided to get involved with. And then the consumers, really there's two choices for them. They don't know about this, of course, is that they will be quite happy with what happened in the store and quite happy with what they left with in terms of their purchase. But what we want them to be is very happy. Okay, and there's a big difference. Happy people will not necessarily return. Very happy people will. Now, I can remember many years ago when I worked for a company in Australia that supplied hairdressing salons, and I came to America one time, and while I was here, I went to 3. Do they seek to get information from you? Or do they find out too late that things are not going so well? Are they fair weather friends? Do they turn up when it suits them? Do they stay in touch? Are they like unpaid employees in your business? Because that's what they should be. It's in their interest that you succeed, obviously. Do they stay in touch in a positive sense in relation to the plans that they discuss and the results that you are going to aim for? And are they fully accountable? Just quickly, what are your thoughts on this subject regarding vendors, the first runners in the race? Ryan, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, you deal with vendors directly? Yeah? So what's the, and I know you wouldn't deal with them if they weren't honourable and helpful and what have you, but by and large, when it comes to them passing the baton on to you and keeping an interest in how the whole race goes, so to speak, how do you judge vendors generally?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the organization itself, is really from the top down, is that company driving it. Occasionally you'll get a vendor who's initiating that on their own, but the ones that really are driving it from a corporate level or probably are getting a lot better service and really are partnering with us.
That's a good point. I don't know if you could hear that clearly. Ryan's point was that either it all starts at the top and works down, or it doesn't. Management apparently doesn't have time to get involved in that kind of thing, so you rely on the rep or whatever it is, the contact that you have, which is, again, pathetic. Either you have it as a management, leadership-driven factor, or you don't. Generally speaking, any other comments? How do you rate the vendors? Yes, Morris?
Once again, from trying to get into our store for like 3 years, delivering product, 6 months after it's delivered, sitting down to sell a full product, and this didn't work. What did you do? Trunk shows? Did you provide training? Did you do contests? Did you do POS? Did you do anything? No. So you've got 6 months to do all that, to correct it, or you'll never be back in here. 2, guys that romance the numbers, every salesperson in our organization, you've got a few of them, personally, take care of them, train them, sit with them on the fitting stool next to them. I love that example, by the way. Right there next to them with another customer. This is how